Can you discuss what is the etiquette of energy?
The etiquette of energy is a line that came to me in my musings, connected with an inner conversation that went something like this, that we have access to everything as human, but we have really bad manners. And that everything in terms of energy is relational, meaning you get back what you put in. But it's also an interesting idea, a bit like etiquette was, Miss Manners of how do you behave in certain ways. But when you look at the ancient Egyptian texts, it's basically about etiquette. When you run into this god, how do you behave? What gift should you give them? What offering should you bring them? And we begin to see an instrument. This is where the work on the tarot, on archetype, on structure says there is an inner structure. There is an inner design, and you are composed of it. But you don't have entitled access to it, meaning if you ask questions that are full of thunder and anger, it's like being an angry animal on the other side of a door. That door is not going to open. As a matter of fact, I had that experience because I had reached a point where I thought, I really should know. I mean, I really need to know these things. And I thought, well, knock and the door shall open. And I said, well, I've been knocking, I've been pounding, and the door hasn't opened. And inwardly, I had a vision of a door, like a speakeasy door, opening with a little window. I said, what do you want? And I said and I shouted, I want in, knock and the door shall open, and nothing is opened. And I've worked so hard. And the door shut, the little door shut very quickly. And then it opened just a little bit, about 6 inches, enough width for a child's hand, because it looked like a little child holding a pillow. Put its hand out the door, dropped the pillow, and retracted the hand as if to not lose it to a wild beast, and said, learn patience, which is not exactly the thing I wanted to hear, but it was saying, do you understand that on our side of the door, so to speak, it sounds like a wild animal? Why would we open the door to that which is making such a fuss? Why don't you calm down? Why don't you realize if it's winter, you can't make it spring, but if you trust the seasons, you can begin to understand that there's appropriate behavior, appropriate questions based upon different weather and conditions. And this is where the etiquette is very important. In dealing with archetype, in dealing inwardly, when we begin to realize that our structure, like the keys of a piano, are different notes, different characters and characteristics, then if we ask questions of ourselves having to do with love, we must create the conditions that allow that to be the present quality we are seeking to know. To seek to know love without the willingness to love makes that impossible. And we have a type of conceit that there's a type of entitlement to consciousness, that somehow you can just turn on a dial or take a pill or something will allow you to just suddenly have magical abilities. But if we take that back a bit to theater, we take that back to craft and art, to life, we realize that nothing comes from nothing. If you put nothing in, nothing comes forth. And there is this type of hypnosis. You don't have to do much. There's an easy way to do this. There's a shortcut. But if you think of that in terms of etiquette and relationship, that's like saying to someone you love, there's a shortcut. There's a way around this responsibility. I don't have to be true to you. I just want what you have. Well, how do you think in relationship the other would feel about you? And this is what I began to perceive very deeply, is that our human sense of things is oftentimes wrapped in a feeling that I should have, and I'm entitled to, but I don't have to. I can have freedom, but I don't need to be responsible. And this is in a way, self-teaching. Because at the end of the day, we realize that false behavior, ill behavior, gives us nothing. The only thing that proves the art, the creation, the beauty, the meaning, the hope, and truth is when what we have put into the relationship has honored the questions that that relationship seeks to know. Not just what's in it for you, but truly, what is it in the relationship that allows this assumption about who I think I am to realize that I am much more than I ever thought I could be. And I know this from the love of my wife, Carla, and my daughters and my granddaughter. I realize that they make me so much more than I could ever be, because the etiquette of energy says, if you want to know who you are, realize you are not sitting alone, you are sitting in relationship. And these relationships, some are physical, but a lot of them are mental, a lot of them emotional, and these qualities wait for us to show up and say, I'm not going to shout at you anymore. I'm going to listen. I'm going to try and allow myself to have manners, to have a bit of etiquette, and to say, I invite you to mentor me rather than I insist you give me. And this changes everything. It changes everything, because that's the etiquette of energy.